Breaking news, coworkers, a super dry rotation is happening in Salmon Run currently, which in case you're unfamiliar with Salmon Reports, means that this rotation got a maximum of 10 on the heat meter, meaning it's an exceptionally challenging rotation to partake in. The stage is once again the dreaded Marooner's Bay, just like the last super dry rotation was, I believe, a lot of players' most disliked map due to either the extreme lag it can happen here or the awkward layout of the map. But nonetheless, Marooner's Bay is definitely one of the more challenging stages you can get, and the weapon composition this time around is really only making the situation worse. The weapons for the shift are the Ink Brush, Splattershot Junior, Splattershot Pro, and the Splat Charger. Not terrible weapons by themselves, but each of them are generally below average performing weapons, and as a team together they have a lot of very obvious weaknesses you want to avoid in Salmon Run. Notably, the weapons all have lower damage numbers, meaning they will have a harder time splatting salmonid bosses with more health, or even cohocks in larger swarms, which usually means the stage is going to get a bit more crowded in your games, and depending on the stage that isn't always a disaster, but Marooner's Bay specifically is a snowballing stage where the more lessers are on the stage and the more of them actually get on the ship part of the map and push you back towards the basket, the less chance you have at winning. This will cause even more problems for this weapon composition, and to understand why, we should talk about why the damage numbers are so low for the weapons, which is a combination of the weapons either not having very good fire rate, so they shoot slowly, or their ink efficiency is problematic and they have to reload often, or it is a combination of both, like in the case of the Splattershot Pro. With that said, you can imagine that the more pushed in a team will get during this rotation, the less effective these weapons will become too, as their damage won't be enough to push back salmonids, or they will constantly run out of ink too and simply get stuck and splatted around the basket area, where there's no good way to retreat from. So the already existing weakness of this map and the challenge of the map only gets worse because of the performance of the weapons. Another consequence of ink efficiency problems is also egg collection and completing your quota, as if there are too many weapons that have bad ink efficiency, the team will have less ink and time to collect golden eggs, and can also have a greater risk of failing the mission due to quota problems, even if you manage to succeed at survival. So what would I recommend for this rotation? In general, on Marooner's Bay you want to be more proactive already and make sure you have the stage under control, namely the ship part of the stage, and make sure that there aren't too many cohocks, slamonlids or steel eels on the ship that force back teams and take away your turf. Marooner's Bay is basically a giant zone control map. To counter the weapon's weaknesses of ink and damage problems, I recommend splitting certain bosses a bit earlier, like the ones I mentioned before, and focus on immediately collecting golden eggs instead straight from the shore, especially at the beginning sections of your waves, when it's the easiest to do so, as even if you do it well, it's very likely that the end of the wave will get very crowded and collection will get difficult. So it's better if you finish the quota as early as possible so you can focus strictly on survival by the end and you don't necessarily have to stay near the basket. Now this actually causes some sort of a paradox here, as I'm saying I recommend splitting bosses earlier and spend time collecting eggs from afar, despite ink efficiency problems on the weapons, which is true, and is another reason this rotation is marked as a 10 on the heat meter. It creates a no matter what bad situation, but I would try to prioritize choosing the lesser evil, and I personally think damage and zone control is going to be a bigger problem here than your ink. So early egg collection and early splats are the way to go, I think. Apart from that, as always, use your specials proactively and not reactionary like you're supposed to. That way you can prevent some really bad scenarios from escalating further and ruining your games. Very easy to notice moments are multiple flyfish, stinger, or big shot spawns, but also consider using your specials if the ship gets awfully too crowded with salmonids. Either way, that is a quick report on the current super dry rotation in Salmon Run, everyone. Despite the difficulty, I still heavily recommend playing this shift, as harder rotations are the best time to practice and get better at Salmon Run. And also, I honestly think this weapon composition is really fun despite all the problems, so don't get too discouraged. Thank you for watching, coworkers, hope you liked this quick report, good luck on your shifts, and I'll see you the next time.